Is your legal name Lori Daybell?
It is. The state is required by law to give the defense evidence of the crime they are being charged with. Was any crime even committed? And where is this evidence?
We got our first look at Counselor Lori Daybell, but she seemed a little preoccupied with parts of the investigation that really aren't directly related to her homicide trial. So we're breaking down the very best and worst parts of her first day as her own counsel. Plus, a NICU nurse is suspected of breaking the bones of multiple premature babies. Now, victims want to know why only baby boys were targeted and how the alleged crimes were able to take place over and over again. Also, this hour, we're spotlighting one of our upcoming trials for you where the murder victim was found with rose petals sprinkled all around her body. We have a criminology expert talking about what the significance there could be. Plus, defendant Victor Rivera expected to take the stand today with him admitting to a shooting that was caught on camera. What could he say that could tip the scales of justice? It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Monday morning to you, my friends. Welcome to Opening Statements. I'm your host, Julie Grant. We hope you had a wonderful weekend, and we have a wonderful show that we put together for you. So let's get it going. Go ahead and grab that cup of coffee right now. It's time for my opening statement. As Abraham Lincoln once said, the man who represents himself has a fool for a client. Counselor Cult Mom is that fool. The convicted killer gave us a little taste of what we're going to see when she represents herself in her second homicide trial in March. Counselor Cult Mom is dropping the Vallow from her name. Well, there's a big surprise. She wants to be known only as Lori Daybell from here on out. Gee, wonder why, since the case victim's name is Vallow, Charles Vallow. I guess Cult Mom wants to create a little distance there as part of her defense. You know, Charles Vallow, God bless him, he was the last real protector of Lori Vallow Daybell's children. He really was. Now, in that hearing, Cult Mom kind of astounded me because at the same time, she sounded both intelligent and delusional. Yeah, that's right. I say intelligent because she's well-spoken. She seems well-read. She was even citing case law at one point. She was respectful to the court. But I say delusional because she acts like she has no idea why she is there. She couldn't comprehend why she is charged. She was questioning why she was even brought to Arizona, acting to the judge like she's just waiting to see what evidence the state possibly has. Cult Mom, you may be a fool, but the police and the prosecutors are not. They are very clear about what you allegedly did. And they are going to make sure you are held accountable when you face them at trial come March. That's my opening statement. Let me know if you like it, my friends. Right now, it's time for your daily docket.
I up without a doubt. I didn't mean to. The disrespect was too much. It was stupid. I was so furious. That's all. I'm waiting for cops.
Defendant Victor Rivera is going to be testifying today in his own defense. He's going to be taking the stand in his own defense, I should say. He's going to be testifying today. We expect court to resume at 10 a.m. in New Hampshire. We don't have an exact time of when he's going to be called, but buckle up. Should be interesting. In Tennessee, we have a brand new trial to court TV I want to tell you about. It's the murder trial for Jason Chen. He's accused of stabbing a woman to death and then hiding her remains in a suitcase. Opening statements in that case begin at 9 a.m. Eastern time. And in South Carolina, we have got jury selection beginning in the Rose Petal murder trial for Zachary Hughes. He's accused of murdering a woman and then sprinkling rose petals all around her body. Apparently, this guy's a concert pianist as well. This case has a lot of mystery to it, and we're going to be digging in deep on this show in our spotlight. But right now, let's go to our top story. Lori Daybell not Vallow, Daybell, is moving ahead toward her March trial after her first hearing as a pro se defendant. She's looking at conspiracy to commit murder charges for the death of her fourth husband, Charles Vallow, and she's going to have a separate trial on the attempted murder of her niece's ex-husband, Brandon Boudreaux. Thank goodness he survived that attack. Now, the convicted killer was dressed in her orange jumpsuit. Look at her hand. It looks like she might have had a duct tape ring. Looks like she might have made that wedding ring. She told the court that she's still legally married to Mr. Doomsday, Chad Daybell, and she appeared to be pretty fired up, acting as her own lawyer, making some demands. Take a look.
Today, the defense is requesting that this court do the following three things. One, order the state to turn over all evidence of a conspiracy since our trial begins in 76 days from today. I would also ask that they would pare down their witness list to these witnesses that will actually be testifying so the defense can conduct productive interviews. And then I would like for all motions and responses to be sent directly to the defendant in a timely manner. I'm having a really hard time getting this stuff. I don't get it from ILS to 7 days after things have been filed, after your orders have been rendered. I'm not getting these. This defense intends on starting trial on time without delay, and I request that also that this defense requests that the court grant the motion to order the state to produce all discovery of extradition at this time so that we can get started on getting prepared for trial.
Okay, so like I said in my opening statement, she doesn't understand why, or maybe she's pretending not to understand, who knows, why she's charged in this case and why she was extradited. She wanted to ask the judge for information about why she was brought over from Idaho to Arizona. So what does this hearing tell us about what we're going to see at trial? Wow, do we have a power panel ready to go on this one? Let me welcome them all in. Criminologist, author, and professor at St. Thomas University, Dr. Debbie Goodman is with us. Also with us, former prosecutor. He was a state solicitor. He put away Susan Smith famously. Now he practices in the private sector. He's a lawmaker as well and a retired SLED agent, Tommy Pope. And retired criminal defense attorney, famously represented Jodi Arias and saved her life, Kirk Nurmi. Wonderful to have you all on the show. Good morning. Dr. Debbie, I want to start with you, please. What do you make of this woman's behavior?
Good morning, Julie, Tommy, Kirk. Pleasure to join you. What do I make of Lori Daybell? She's absolutely pure evil. She knows exactly what she's doing, the horrendous nature of what she's already done. You know, when we look at women, Julie, who have killed children, and certainly those who have come before her, Andrea Yates, Susan Smith, Diane Downs, you know, it's a different level of criminality because as a mother, we would give our lives for our children. So for me, this woman is going to be a very poor actress. She'll enjoy the spotlight. I think all of the courtroom professionals will recognize very quickly it will be a game for her, and she will not win this game. The criminal justice system will win.
Oh, great prediction, Dr. Debbie. I think you're absolutely right. I have a clip from that hearing where she's talking about why she was extradited and just wants to understand what these charges could be about. Let's take a look.
What does anything in the extradition have to do with the underlying charges? Can you tell me that?
Yeah, it's to find out why all this started when I can't find any evidence that there is. So
Have you read the grand jury transcripts?
I have.
Okay, the grand jury transcripts summarize what the state's evidence they intend to produce at trial.
I understand that.
So when you say you can't find anything, that is the summary.
Oh my, Tommy Pope, what do you make of this here? How she wants to go back to why she was brought over in the first place?
I think that alludes to what Debbie was saying. She's just really getting her ride in the spotlight. I don't know if that's co-counsel. I don't know if they assigned co-counsel this time. She's either got co-counsel or she's got the jailhouse lawyer. We used to call them writ writers. There's always somebody had access to the internet and they would just give you notebook page after notebook page of legal arguments and things. And I noticed from what she's reading, that appears to be what that is. So she'll have some underpinning that you would say as an attorney is logical, not necessarily the clip we just saw, but I think you'll see that, but it'll be misplaced law or won't apply. And so it'll be an interesting watch for your viewers for sure.
Oh, most definitely, Tommy. Yes. In Kirk Nurmi, you practiced in Arizona for many, many years. It looked like she had co-counsel there at the table. Is that how it's customary for someone like her to have someone there in the event that she really needs assistance in the moment?
Yeah, Julie, typically what happens in situations like this, she had counsel appointed to her through the public defender's office. I know they withdrew. She had other indigent counsel. Typically that person or persons is held as advisory counsel. So, and that is a role where they are there to answer questions. Different attorneys take different approaches to that. But if Ms. Vallow has questions, what have you, then she can seek those answers from her advisory counsel on how to proceed. That's the way that works. And of course, we have to keep in mind too, in Arizona, Ms. Vallow can deny or drop her representation of herself at any time. And that advisory counsel then has to step in and take over the case at that point. So that is why that person is there.
Thank you, Kirk, for that explainer. In my next question for you, I wanted to ask you how she's citing case law and telling the judge she's been studying the law in Arizona. What's your assessment of Cult Mom's grasp of the laws at play here?
Well, look, it doesn't surprise me. We talk about somebody who's capable of killing her children or being instrumental in that. And all that makes you think maybe she's got sociopathic tendencies. I'm not a psychologist. But when you also talk about intelligent delusional, that fits within that realm of sociopathy. So, she thinks she's doing a great job. Is she enjoying her time in the spotlight? You bet. I bet her representation of herself is really motivated by conflicts with her counsel. She wants this irrelevant information related to her extradition, what have you. And her now advisory counsel is probably telling her, no, that's not relevant. These are the things that's relevant. And being of the mindset that she is, that delusional and intelligent mindset, she thinks, I can go on my own and take this on. The question will be, in the next couple months, because her trial's set in March, is will she decide, she's running into a brick wall and drop this charade and let the legal professional take over? That'll be one thing that's interesting as this trial develops and gets closer to trial.
Yes, Kirk, that is the burning question for sure. Let's dovetail off of what you said, because I'm sure many of us have looked at her at one time or another and thought, the behavior seems a bit sociopathic, as you said, Kirk. Dr. Debbie Goodman, I want to go back to you on that point. Do you see signs of sociopathy with her behavior?
Oh, absolutely. But again, even if she's somebody who can kill people or conspire to kill others, these people can also be seemingly highly intelligent, as you suggest, Julie, and interactive. But it wouldn't suggest to me whatsoever that she doesn't know what she's doing and she doesn't know what she's doing is wrong. So I agree with Kirk as well. This really is a spotlight moment for her. She feels this is her moment to shine. She has nothing to lose. She will come across as articulate and well-spoken, and she'll do the best she can for herself. But once again, I don't believe her, and I believe in our criminal justice system.
Yes, Dr. Debbie. Tommy Pope, let me go back to you, please. When you're a prosecutor and you have a pro se defendant, that's a real treat, isn't it?
It is exhausting, particularly if you have victims and victims' families and they want to know why they're getting away with saying so-and-so or doing so-and-so. And, you're in the back room going, the judge is going to give them wide latitude. But, that can be a tactic, too, on the defense. As Debbie said, she's got nothing to lose. And so this is a day out of court. I mean, a day out of jail, into court. And so she's going to make the most of it. And I think Represent Yourself is probably a lot more entertaining and involved and stimulating mentally than just sitting there watching another sentence get put on you. So, both Kurt and Debbie both said, I think she will enjoy the spotlight, and the prosecutor will probably have to take some Tums or Tagamet or something for the ulcer she's going to create.
I know. Try to stay calm, do some deep breathing exercises, something. Get ready for her. Oh, she's going to test the prosecutor's patience, that's for sure. Such great insight from you all. We'll leave it there for now. When we come back, here's what's coming up on Opening Statements.
To learn what this person did, and it makes me sick. It truly makes me sick.
It's going to make you too sick when you sick too when you hear it at home. Listen to this. Parents are speaking out after they've learned that a nurse taking care of their babies was breaking the baby's legs. That's what officials are saying. We're going to tell you all about this horrific story when we return. Plus, defendant Victor Rivera on the stand today, we're told. So much evidence against this guy. What is he going to say that tips the scales? A Ponzi scheme and a deadly poisoning.
A former pharmacist already convicted in a federal fraud case
now stands trial for the murder of her husband.
The financial crime gives rise to motive.
Did Natalie Cochran kill to cover up other crimes?
We're not here to obtain convictions. We're here to obtain the truth.
Now a jury will decide her fate.
And Court TV will bring you every minute.
The Ponzi scheme murder trial. Live coverage begins this week, only on Court TV.
Somebody needs to be held accountable for my son, for everybody, others' kid. Like, somebody needs to be held accountable. It's too many in such a short period of time.
Now for what's trending in true crime, parents in Richmond, Virginia are on the path to justice after police arrested a former nurse for felony child abuse. This nurse is accused of intentionally injuring premature babies, breaking their legs. This is her. This is the defendant. This is Erin Stratman. She was taken into custody last week for malicious wounding and felony child abuse. The baby suffered broken limbs while in her care at Henrico Doctors Hospital. And these abuse claims seem to be part of a larger problem potentially for the hospital. Scripps News Richmond reports.
This report detailing a 2023 visit by inspectors from the Virginia Department of Health shows the state cited the hospital for failing to promote each patient's rights by not reporting the suspected abuse within 24 hours of having reason to believe that the babies had been abused. When asked about the VDH findings, a spokesperson for HCA sent us a statement that reads in part, "Once we determined that the fractures could have been caused by something other than the development and size of the babies, we reported the fractures to the appropriate authorities, including CPS, and fully assisted in the investigations they launched." Dominique Hackey, the father of one of the infants injured in 2023, told me today that it outrages him that the hospital installed cameras after his baby received a fracture as a way to prevent future babies from getting hurt, and yet he feels like the hospital failed to protect its most vulnerable patients.
Well, he's got a point there. Let's talk about it. So this defendant, Stratman, she's being held without any bail this morning. Good. According to CNN, her next court appearance is going to be on March 24th. So the question we're asking first in this discussion, does the pattern of abuse of these babies show that the hospital was potentially complicit? Let's bring in our guest, still with me, retired criminal defense attorney and author Kirk Nurmi, and want to welcome in board-certified forensic pathologist Dr. Priya Banerjee. Dr. Priya, what's your thoughts when you hear about what the hospital knew and about what this woman allegedly did?
Well, it's hard for me to say who knew what, but it's obviously a systemic problem and happened more than once. And I'm speechless. I'm a mom. I trusted my newborn to the nurses in the infant room, right? Just to get some rest. It's overwhelming anyways. And to think the person caring for your child while you're resting does this. It's incomprehensible. And what I really want to say is the pattern is very unusual. You cannot explain leg injuries by birth trauma. So any kind of defense in that way is illogical.
You know, and let me ask you another question pertaining to that, Dr. Priya, because I know when we all heard about this story, our hearts were breaking. Our hearts go out to all of those victims, their parents. Hopefully these children don't have any further ramifications from what happened. When you think about what it takes to break a baby's leg, how much force do you need for someone to do that?
So, we're designed, especially as infants, to be very rubbery. And I say that it's mainly cartilage. The bones are forming. If you look on the x-rays, there's small gaps because they're going to grow a ton. But it still takes effort to harm a baby. It's probably not as much as, say, an adult bone, which is, calcified and strong and thick. But obviously babies feel pain. And there was comments that they saw the babies crying, very uncomfortable. It's horrific. So it's definitely intentional.
Right. And I would think my next question was going to be to the pain. I would think that would be excruciating for all of us who've ever broken a bone as an adult. We can think back to how we felt when that happened. How might these little babies have felt, Dr. Priya?
I mean, they're little and they can't, express themselves other than by crying, but it's horrific. They feel pain. There should be no reason they won't feel the pain. And obviously things are growing and forming. So those are very blood-rich areas. They're going to feel it. That's a tender area now, obviously, where their body's working to grow stronger, not, to heal from any kind of trauma like that. It's unthinkable.
Right. It really is, Dr. Priya. You're right. It's unconscionable what happened to these precious babies. We thank you for your medical expertise on all of that. And Kirk Nurmi, I want to tap into your legal expertise now. Your thoughts in hearing these allegations and then also hearing about what the hospital may have known and not reported.
Yeah, Julia, I've been around the block, so to speak, as a death penalty attorney, and you think sometimes things are never going to shock you, and then you read something like this, right, that is beyond the pale, it's beyond repulsive. There's just not enough condemnation that can be cast upon this behavior. But when we talk about condemnation, it has to be followed up by an examination of what hospital officials did. We have the state report, articulating the cover-up, or at least insinuating that there was a cover-up. And this is repulsive in and of itself. You think, okay, they realize behavior like this is happening, and they're doing everything they can to, insulate themselves from civil liability. We think, this harkens back, I can't believe the Taking Care of Maya trial. This is that on steroids, if it were, because they are simply ignoring or trying to cover up behavior that is damaging premature, the most vulnerable patients they have. And ultimately, I think this civil suit is going to be hopefully something that eviscerates this hospital from ever functioning anywhere near this, anywhere substandard again.
Kirk, thank you for all of that. The hospital, of course, they released a statement. I'll read it to you what they said. This is, again, Henrico Doctors Hospital. They released this right after Aaron Stratman was arrested. They said, quote, "We're both shocked and saddened by this development in the investigation and are focused on continuing to care for our patients and providing support to our colleagues who've been deeply impacted and personally impacted." Goes on to say, quote, "For more than 30 years, the NICU at Henrico Doctors Hospital has provided necessary and life-saving care to babies in Central Virginia, and we remain focused on ensuring the availability of that care in our community," end quote. Now, I want to contrast that with a clip from Dominique Hackey. So Dominique is one of the parents whose baby was harmed at that hospital, speaking out to the media. This was right after the defendant made her first court appearance. Let's take a look together.
Overwhelmed with emotions. I can't put my hand on just one. I couldn't help but to break down for that father and that mother, because I felt how I felt when I learned that my son had a fracture, and that was helpless. Justice for my son. Justice for the other families that were affected, the other people's boys that were affected. Somebody needs to be held accountable, and it looks like that day is here.
So 7 babies that we know of were all injured. 7. There could be more, but 7 is the count this morning that we know of. And police have said that all of the babies were of different races, but all of the babies were male. So let's talk about that. This woman, Erin Stropman, she's looking at a maximum of 10 years in prison for the felony child abuse charge, up to 20 for malicious wounding. What might prosecutors do with the fact that all these babies were male? Does that mean anything? Kirk Nurmi, do you think there may have been an MO here?
Boy, obviously there's some deep psychological issues here that will be explored by the defense, because there is no real defense, if you will. So those issues will be explored. Whether that is motivation or not, whether that describes, can help the prosecution in this case, I don't know. I think the simple fact that all these babies were injured is going to be enough, and obviously the jury is not going to be in any way sympathetic towards this defendant. So in the end, it may not mean very much in terms of criminal trial. I hope that the charges you read, that 10 to 20, I hope that's per child as opposed to in total, because I think this woman needs to be locked away for life with no possibility of parole.
Great point, Kirk. Yes. And let's hope all the sentences run consecutive to one another if she's convicted, and certainly think she will be. Dr. Priya, I know we're going to have to let you go in just a moment, so I wanted to give you the final word here. Your thoughts on what needs to happen at this hospital now after this horrific abuse took place?
Well, right. I mean, I think there's a systemic review that needs to be done, right? There's standard operating procedures, there's oversight, there's layers of oversight, if you will, right? There's charge nurses, physicians, all the way up to hospital administration. And, it's hard because there's so many moving parts. However, you really have to hone in on, one baby, okay, now you suddenly have 2 babies with leg injuries. I mean, that should, fool me once versus fool me twice, right? That doesn't happen. And that should have triggered something immediately. Again, this is not compatible with birth trauma. So even one instance was very peculiar. I don't know how we get to 7. So there needs to be a deep-rooted, systematic evaluation of what went wrong and who knew what.
Yes, amen. Dr. Priya Banerjee, thank you for all of that and sharing your medical insight and expertise with us. We'll look forward to having you back very soon. Kirk Nurmi's coming along with us. I want you to do the same, please. When we return, we're talking about a concert pianist on trial for murder. We're spotlighting the brand new trial set to hit Court TV this week. We're calling it the Rose Petal Murder Trial. Plus,
he is going to come up here in front of all of you, in front of a full court, and testify and tell you what happened that night. He is going to tell you about the things that led up to that night and what was happening in his head.
the defendant in the bad breakup murder trial is expected to take the stand today. We'll talk about whether he can tip the scales. This morning, we're shining a spotlight on a brand new trial we have for you starting this week at Court TV. Juilliard-trained concert pianist Zachary Hughes is accused of killing a woman who was in a child custody battle with Hughes's friend. Christina Parcell was found with rose petals. Yeah, that's right, rose petals scattered all around her body. She'd been stabbed 31 times. But the mystery doesn't stop there. Court TV's Michael Ayala has more.
That's Zachary Hughes of Greenville, South Carolina. The Juilliard-trained pianist regularly performed Beethoven sonatas and other classical works around town. Then, in 2021, he was charged with murder. Christina Parcell, 41, was found in her home on October 13th of 2021 with rose petals scattered around her.
She was brutally stabbed to death in her neck and head area, approximately 31 different stab wounds by a sharp object, most likely a knife.
Prosecutors say Ring doorbell videos show Hughes entering Parcel's home before the murder and leaving the neighborhood after.
Christina Parcell has a daughter who was around the age of 9, and she was engaged in an extremely contentious custody battle with the father of the child. The father of the child and Zach Hughes are very close friends.
The men aren't only friends, they're also co-defendants in another case. They're accused of sending nude or pornographic images of Parcell to individuals and businesses months before she was killed.
All right, that was Michael Ayala reporting there. So there's a lot to this case. Let's dig in together now. I'm going to welcome back in criminology expert, author, and professor at St. Thomas University, Dr. Debbie Goodman, and former SLED agent and solicitor, currently practicing in the private sector, and a state lawmaker as well, attorney Tommy Pope. So Dr. Debbie, let me go to you first, please, with whether there's any significance you may see with whomever did this murder scattering rose petals around the victim's body.
Absolutely, Julie. I think there's meaning and significance to everything a killer does. And looking at the rose petal and what potentially does it mean in this regard, we know that roses and flowers represent beauty, love, innocence, friendship. And the nature of this crime scene must have been so heinous and horrible with 31 stab wounds. So I think it's almost an intersection, Julie, of love and hate, that the killer absolutely hated this individual, Miss Parcell. And I think it may have potentially been driven by the daughter and her potential victimization and violation. And I think the rose petals actually represent the beauty, the innocence of the daughter amidst this horrific scene of this woman. Also, by the way, her body allegedly was posed and staged. And for me as a criminologist, that also speaks to a heightened level post-mortem of manipulation, humiliation, and degradation.
Wow, this is such great analysis. Dr. Debbie, thank you for that. So there are some more players in all of this, if you will. So apparently we have, the victim in this case, her boyfriend found her, right? So her boyfriend finds her dead. Now he's facing child pornography charges. So this boyfriend, his name is Bradley Post. He's charged with possession of child porn. And guess what? Police also say that this victim, that she had the child porn as well. So they're saying that these pornographic materials linked Bradley Post with Christina Parcell. Okay, so he finds her dead and then picks up criminal charges. And then there's a little more here. So the daughter that this woman has, the child's father is a music producer, and apparently he has been linked to the defendant. And so they're both facing charges for disseminating nude photos of the homicide victim. So this is wow. We have so many defendants here. It's almost hard to keep track. So let's start with the child pornography. Should that have a place in this homicide trial? The victim said to have allegedly possessed it, her boyfriend as well. Tommy Pope, the boyfriend's a big witness, finding her there dead. Tell me, do you think as a prosecutor you would want this information coming in, or should it stay out?
I think the prosecutor has actually moved to keep it out, to keep it separated. But, when I first heard the rose petal thing, going back to Debbie, I thought, unrequited love, it's always the ex-boyfriend that won't let it go or whatever. But as you look at this, you almost need a dry erase board to write the players, like you said, because Mello, who you have up on the screen now, the father of the child, is good friends with the defendant. I'm wondering, let's leave out the child porn part now, but I'm wondering, is Hughes working as an agent of Mello, so to speak? Is he working as an adjunct to carry out his goals? So maybe Hughes didn't have a direct emotional connection, but he's carrying it out for Mello, who does. We've heard that the divorce was contentious. Now, if you add sexual abuse, I know if I was going through a divorce and my daughter was being sexually abused, I don't want to say what I might do. And so it sounds like he might have done it at his behest, Julie. And so, again, there's layers. And I think the defense, this is when we need Kirk back in. I guess the defense is going to want this in if this shows some type of motive. I mean, it doesn't erase the murder, but it may mitigate it, and it may hang a jury if that's truly what was going on.
Tommy, such sharp analysis. You hit the nail on the head many times there. Was Hughes an agent of Mello's, right? Because we understand that in addition to the homicide charge Hughes has, he also has charges for disseminating nude photos of Christina Parcell. And police say that it was Mello who gave Hughes her phone number, apparently said to harass her. And so there's a link, according to investigators. As you said, Tommy, there's a link. So it's why did Hughes allegedly commit this homicide? If he did it, was it Mello who, as you said, asked him to? So that being said, and you were right also, Tommy, that prosecutors do want to keep out that child porn. So we'll see. Dr. Debbie, I want to go back to you, please. When we think about something like this, with so many layers and so many players involved, as a criminologist, tell me what you're most going to be looking for and paying attention to as we're getting ready. They're picking the jury today, so as we get ready for this to open up, possibly tomorrow.
Absolutely. And these 4 players, everybody has some level of contribution or question mark for sure. So we're looking at what did Bradley Post have on his cell phone data and his computer? There's allegedly 9 different devices with pictures and heinous imagery of children in sexually exploitive ways. And now we also may have the decedent herself as a participant in this horrendous conduct. And I think Tommy absolutely hit the nail on the head that Hughes acted on the behest of Mello, and Mello, the father of the 9-year-old daughter, probably thought his daughter was being abused and had Hughes take action.
Thank you so much. Such great analysis. As always, Dr. Debbie Goodman, I believe we have to let you go. Thank you so much for everything this morning. We'll have you back very soon. And we got to get a question from your class one of these days. I was thinking you have such smart students, so interested. We're going to make that happen on the next day you give us some analysis. So thank you kindly, Dr. Debbie. And Tommy's coming along with us. I want you to do the same, please. When we come back, here's what we've got. We're talking about Victor Rivera getting on the stand. Oh my, this is going to happen today. What is he going to say in his own defense?
How we doing, guys? We're good? Okay.
You're on very shaky ground.
That is unreal.
People wanted answers, and people started locking their doors.
I did not do it to hurt anybody.
You know what it means. You know what you did, right?
Please hear me out. Please.
This was a real-life soap opera.
And I said, OJ, everybody thinks you're guilty.
Now for what's tipping the scales in the bad breakup murder trial for Victor Rivera. He's expected to take the stand today in his own defense. In fact, we expect it to happen this morning. We're going to go in there live when trial begins. Now, this guy's accused of killing his ex-girlfriend and her brand new boyfriend outside of a restaurant in New Hampshire in September of 2023. His attorney even acknowledged Rivera being the man seen on this surveillance video shooting Patricia Sweat and Matt Champagne. But during her opening statement, his lawyer urged the jury to keep an impartial mind until you hear from Rivera.
And the state cannot tell you what was going through Victor's mind in those moments. But Victor can. And he will. He will come up here and he will testify. Even though, as we talked about in voir dire, it can be scary. Even though he knows we will be scrutinizing all of his body language, And even though he knows it can be interpreted in different ways and affected by many different things.
Court resumes at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Let's talk about whether him taking the stand can tip the scales of justice in his favor. Let me bring back in our legal eagles on the program today, attorneys Tommy Pope and Kirk Nurmi. Okay, Kirk, what do you think? Is this guy going to help himself on the stand?
I don't see how he can, Julie. I mean, it is on tape, but the defense is right. You can't assess mindset. That's what the jury's supposed to do. So when you have evidence like this, if he didn't want to take a plea and he's got maybe this fantasy in his head that he's going to be able to talk to the jury and talk about how bad these people are or what his mindset was, and that's going to lessen his punishment, this is his opportunity to do so. And, this is part of his right to fair trial. So, do I think it's going to tip the scales? No, I think he's the only one who believes that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Kirk. Great point. Tommy Pope, tell us what you think is going to happen when Mr. Rivera gets up there today.
I think Kirk was spot on with it. I tell you one thing that's interesting, and I've seen tactics both ways, but having the defense say in opening that they will hear from him, obviously he doesn't have to testify. I think that helps the prosecution. I know, we were always speculating every time, am I going to have to cross-examine the defendant? Am I ready to? Because you're allocating your time to get ready for trial, and you're usually allocating to other witnesses because you're thinking, you won't hear from the defendant. And so in a strange way, the tactic of telling them, and I think it helps keep the jury's mind open for the defendant, but I think the tactic of telling them helps the prosecution prepare. So now when you go home at night, just like we know, he's going to testify today. So I think you'll see a sharper, crisper cross because of that. And I'm with Kirk. I think normally when you read behind the scenes, much like Ms. Daybell, they've got an idea what's best for them that may not truly be best in a court of law.
Yeah, great points. And Tommy, I like what you explained there about how, behind the scenes, prosecutors have a lot to worry about. It's like herding cats, getting your witnesses lined up, getting everything ready. And that's one more thing to add to the list, as you said. So there should be no excuse for a poor cross. They should be prepared, as you noted. Kirk Nurmi, tell me, what advice would you give Victor Rivera if he was your client and he's intent on getting up there? What would be some of the things you would tell him to keep in mind before he takes the stand?
Well, I probably would have told him to take the plea agreement and that this is probably not a way to go. But assuming his attorney did that, I'm sure she did, it's a matter of, addressing the jury. It depends really what he wants to say. You have those conversations. What are you trying to say? What do you want to say? And sometimes the defendant just wants to assert themselves into the proceedings. They want to tell what they believe is their truth and let the jury digest that. If you have a hopeless case, you just kind of, okay, because you don't want to interfere with that as a defense attorney, right? Apart from the appeal, there's the ineffective counsel. So if you go in there and say, you can't say this, you can't say that, then you're going to be looked at, scrutinized later on down the road when the defendant's convicted based on, you told them not to fully exercise their right. So you might look for landmines, things that you think the prosecutor's going to attack them on, but you really don't want to interfere too much with that fundamental right.
Yeah, great points. We have to say goodbye and a big thank you to you, Kirk Nurmi. We'll see what happens together. We'll talk more about this guy soon, I'm sure. Thank you for everything, Kirk. We'll see you soon. And Tommy's coming up next with us when Court TV Live begins. That is all for opening statements. You can watch this episode again if you like. You can share it with your friends. Go to courttv.com. Click on the shows tab. We put the episodes up there every day for you so you can watch them again whenever you want. This morning, when Court TV Live starts up, we are taking you to Tennessee. We have a brand new trial starting this morning, the murder trial for this guy, Jason Chen. Opening statements are expected to get underway any minute now, so go refill your coffee. I'll see you back here in just 4 minutes.